Sorry, hold on. Yes. Oh, okay. We now have 3 on the phone. So far, you should like here. Okay.
No, I don't.
Okay. You have Kyle? Here, who do you want me to call? Or can you call Becky? Sure. Okay. And then you're gonna call Kyle? Okay. We're gonna get Zoom fixed out next time. I ruined my Zoom school Zoom, so I don't know what I did. Well, I know what I did. I just don't know how to undo it at this point. It won't let me end.
Well, nice.
Hello. Hey, Becky, it's Jamie. Hey, were you wanting to call into the meeting?
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay, yes, perfect. We have you on one phone, Jessica on another phone. We're trying to get Kyle maybe on another phone, so it's a smorgasbord.
Okay, well, I'm driving, so if I lose you, but yeah.
Okay.
I would like to.
Jessica, can you say hi so we can see if Becky can hear you?
Yes, here.
Yep, I can hear.
Okay, perfect.
Okay. Yes, miss. Where's Scratch? They're still young. It's when we were both in there approving things, whatever. Yeah, it's fine. We have meetings. It's fine. Okay. Just wanted to let you know.
So, I don't know if that was it on the agenda that was posted like that on the door, that appointment?
And just that appointment with now.
So, it's a special session. We won't be doing the Pledge of Allegiance. Oh, here's Kyle. Kyle? Yeah. Hi. We have Jess and Becky also on the phone, so I'm gonna put the phone down by there, and Drew and I are present.
Okay.
Turned up. Okay, we were just getting started. There was appointments listed, however, there was nothing attached. So, the candidates that we were going to appoint, weren't listed. So we're not going to do that tonight. We'll do that next Monday, which will be fine because it will be before school starts. So the next item is our coaches handbook, and Austin is here. You guys should have it in your supporting documents. He has it up on, the TV, and he's going to go through some things with us.
All right. Got the handbook here. I'll go through changes. There's a few minor changes, and then obviously the big ticket item at the end, the 8th grade and high school sports.
Can you guys hear Austin?
Yes, I can hear him.
Okay.
Yeah, I hear. So at the beginning, one small change or one addition that I put right here in the welcome, something that I've been talking to all the coaches about, is making sure that our programs are values-based, conceptual-based, and sprint-based. So what does that mean? That means our coaches are choosing values that they want to see, that they're going to talk about, that they're going to reinforce during the season, picking 3 to 4 values that is important to them to see with the kids, because we want the kids to grow on the court, on the field, but also we want them to grow as people and demonstrate values. Conceptual, what does that mean? That means that we as coaches, we're teaching concepts within the context of the sport. So we're not just sitting there putting kids in specific drills in a line where kids are waiting 10 minutes for their turn to participate and doing one movement, waiting 10 minutes and doing a movement. We're putting kids in concepts that they will see when they are on the field or on the court. Sprint-based, what does that mean? That means that the movements that kids are doing in their practices are sprint-based. So because in our sports, that's what student athletes do. They sprint. Volleyball sprints, basketball sprints. Football, they sprint for a short period of time. At no time is anybody running 19 laps really, really slowly. That doesn't help out kids. Speed does create endurance. Endurance does not create speed. So that is just one small addition that I put in the handbook right there. Something that I've been talking to coaches about last year and will continue.
So can we ask questions as we go?
Yeah.
So I don't have to
I'll roll and then
back.
go ahead.
Okay, I have a question about that, Austin.
Sure.
Will you go over that with the coaches? Like, what values are you going to focus on? And, know kind of that ahead of
Yeah,
time.
so when I have the preseason meetings with coaches, that's what I'll ask them. I'll ask them what values are they going to look at, and then I'll ask the same thing after the season. What values did you instill in the kids? What was most important? What were the 3 things that were most important to you during the season? And then they will talk about that then.
Okay,
Yep.
thanks.
And then small change, obviously I changed our new superintendent to the district contact information. And here I wanted to talk to the school board about the school board goals that are in the coaching handbook, because the school board has changed. There are new members. So previously there's quite a few words here, but what I have underlined is, if this were in bullet points, this is what's most important to the school board as far as coaching or activities or athletics are concerned. So I have here first, providing a wide range of athletic programs for both boys and girls, and then creating a culture of leadership. I have that is shared among multiple individuals as head coaches, assistant coaches, and volunteer coaches. So previously, our board wanted to make sure that we have head coaches, assistant coaches, and volunteer coaches to support the programs. And then high demands of skill building, strength and conditioning, and off-season workouts were important to the board, and diversifying the coaching staff. And then at the end, that last underlined point there, that these identified qualities will determine the individuals that will be selected to interview for the position. So I wanted to ask the board if this is still where everybody stands, or if there are changes or additions that you want to make, especially with having changes at the board positions.
Well, only thing I can think of is you talk about like the Tiger Way in your thing, or maybe bring into some of the values in here. Like we are trying to raise good young men and women, into, it's important for our coaches like to instill those values,
Right.
Not just the leadership, because not all the kids are going to be leaders, but they will have other values. So I don't know if it's something we want to.
Well, I didn't know if how this comes up regularly to discuss, because I think, one, we could leave it, Austin and I could take this year. He has some things thinking about with coaches and really embedding values. We could potentially come back to the table in a few months to really identify the goals of our athletics and our activities in the district. We also have that special session where we're going to be talking about goals, like we could add a layer of this into that so that we have a more formal. I love that we have a handbook. I would love it to be New London's handbook, and so right now a little bit of it is because Austin's pulling all of this together and he's just trying to make sure he's going in the right direction.
Right. Because I really believe in, I'm a big sports fan for this aspect. I truly believe my kids learn so much in sports that has made them into the people they are today, and that it's more than just a competition and scoring, and so I really would like that to come out and to our athletes.
I don't think anybody would argue any of the underlying pieces of this.
Right.
And I'm fine.
But we don't know how it's been reviewed.
I think it's just yearly like this.
Okay.
Prevent it.
Right.
This
Yep,
is
that's
my
been
goal.
But
I would think when we come up with our goals, it would be appropriate, and it doesn't mean we can't kind of send them to
Sure.
that, the board's goals.
So maybe often when we come, we're going to have a special session where we work on goals. Maybe if you could come with some formal information from what you gathered from values, like what values do the coaches in New London want to bring to the table and what's important for those programs, then we can incorporate that in our work session.
And I also don't know if they're still doing like a portrait of a graduate or anything like that, to be able to incorporate some of those things and like that. They see it in all aspects.
Right, now I'm down to page 8. And put in just small minor changes to the consequences when students have a good conduct. So when students have good conduct, they are required to complete counseling and check-in sessions. And so I added a professional in there so that those check-ins don't rely solely on the school guidance counselor, because some students will have a great relationship with maybe the SRO or maybe the high school PE teacher, and those are also great staff members for that student athlete to get to check in with. It doesn't just have to be the social work, the school guidance counselor or the social worker. So we added admin determined professional. So whoever that would be determined by me finding out which teacher that specific student that has consequences for them to be able to check in with. So that's one small change right there. You can see it says school guidance counselor, social worker, certified outside counseling agent. So before it ended at that outside counseling agent. So I wanted to add in any school admin determined professional staff member here at school.
During those check-ins, what do they look for, I guess, or what are they trying to get out of it?
That's a great question. So it's good, great question. It's good that you asked, because we haven't been following that the way we should. We've been following the consequences, applying the consequences to the students, but we haven't been making sure that those students are meeting that requirement of having the 1 to 5, however many counseling sessions that they need. So when I went over this with Dr. Cranston, she noticed that, I noticed that, and that's something that we need to look at. And also adding another staff member for a student athlete to be able to connect with is going to make it easier on us, making sure that we fulfill that need for the students to be able to make them have it. So what does that entail for a student to have a check-in? Something really short, meaning that person is, that the staff member that the student is checking with is aware of there's consequences for their actions that they performed, and they are in a sport and wanting to make sure that they get back. So just, I think, somebody for the student athlete to go talk to, the staff member that is going to listen to what the student has to say, check in, ask them how it's going, make sure that they are progressing through their consequences, and making sure that that is not going to prevent the student athlete from staying in the sport. Because yes, there is consequences and they have to miss a certain number of competitions based on the consequence, but we don't want that student athlete to leave the sport. So somebody for them to just quick and short to check in with, and also for me to check in with that staff member to say, how's it going with this student? Are they understanding the consequences of their actions? Are they still feeling like they're going to enjoy the sport? Are they going to continue? And what are some of the things that the student athlete is saying to you? Because the students need us as staff to listen to what they have to say.
I have another question on that.
Yes.
So, have the infractions above that, what constitutes a violation? And what is their, like, the penalty here? Is there anything that's assigned to them that they have to do, determined on what penalty they broke? Like, I'm just saying, like, I had a coworker, it was in a different state, but some of the athletes got caught with alcohol. So they had to participate in 6 hours of some sort of education on consuming alcohol and minors. Or is there anything we're doing to help them through whatever?
Specific, like a logical consequence according to what they did.
Yeah, if it was fighting,
right.
Are you helping them have, anger management? Is it
I think
drugs? Is it,
that would be,
if there was something in there that said as the, what, I don't know if it does say in there, as determined by school administration, what?
Well, I was going to jump in before that, and it kind of piggybacks. So, Austin, even the check-ins that he's referring to could become, this wasn't just a vaping offense. We have an addiction that we need to be talking about, and that might lend itself to further suggestions or recommendations from administration. Even though it feels like we want that to be quick, I think that could also contribute to what you're asking about.
Yeah, because I'm feeling like, I don't think we should just have a punishment, because that taking something away from them isn't educating them or putting them in the right direction, or, that sort of thing. I don't want to just have them.
right. So the students, so that would be, the students, what they can do is they can perform community service hours to reduce their consequence. Or they it'll reduce our consequence by 50%. But do we necessarily have a logical consequence that's perfectly in accordance with what they did? No, we do not. That's a great idea. I know Mr. Kraft will assign service hours for certain consequences, but we do not have that set in stone right now.
I just think, because there's a reason
Yep.
they're doing it. It's usually a deeper, something
Right.
deeper that we should maybe get to.
Right.
Instead of just-
So you're saying we could have a consequence that's going to affect your sport because it's important to you, but at the same time, what are you going to do that as a consequence to serve to be able to understand what you did and
learn from that.
learn from your
Yeah.
mistakes, right?
Maybe even give the option for during that first counseling, if it is something that comes up during counseling that like, hey, this might help,
Yeah.
could be added in.
Or they have to come up with something with the person they're checking in with or something,
I think it'd be hard to try to do one size fits all for everything, but if you have,
Right.
Right.
if you have meet with them at counseling and then you realize, hey, they might need some help in this area, being able to add something in afterwards.
And I think that's embedded in here. So first offense is kind of the check-in, we figure it out. Second offense lends itself to the 5 counseling or check-in situation. So I think we're treating offense 1 as, this might have just been a bad choice. And then when you get to offense 2 is when
Yeah, I mean, 5 counseling
we're
sessions.
flipping to that script of
Right, but I
support.
mean, I don't know if it comes from that far. It's like, oh, yeah, I haven't been vaping, or I've been drinking more alcohol on weekends, or I have,
And that's why we pivoted. That's why we, well, I think it could depend on the action. And so if you're wanting every infraction to list out,
No, but I just don't want punishment without education.
yeah, and that's why we added the layer about the determined, because if it's around theft, it could be that our SRO could support that in 5 sessions or 5 learning opportunities. And we felt like it was kind of limited to just the counselor. And if I don't have a connection, we have Mallory who serves our district and comes a day a week. And so if it's that she has a connection with that person, so that's kind of why we backed off a little to add that in, because the connection is what's going to lead to learning. But I see what you're saying. I just don't know that we have it that scripted out in this handbook right now.
Well, and I think it says even in the first one, if it's need that the student needs more sessions, they can do like up to 5. So I guess if it's something that seems fit. Now, it's a question I had too is hypothetically, let's say they go do their check-in and this kid is just like, I don't care. I'm just doing my time. Like whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any chance that you could escalate it just from that, or does it just follow policy from their own?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Just like you said, up to 5 counseling sessions, second offense moves up to 10 counseling sessions. So say a student has fulfilled their games missed, but they've only done 5 of the counseling sessions and it's determined that they need 10. Okay, you need to show that you understand what you did. You have to show up to these 5 more counseling sessions before you're going to be able to compete, because as a school, we must be able to put students in good standing on the field, on the court, right, to be able to compete. So we must know that you have learned from your mistakes. And now, yes, you get the privilege of going and playing sports. You get the privilege of going and performing the activity now at this point. And we're also helping the student athlete because, okay, if we see that this student athlete needs more counseling check-ins, we must do that, because if we don't, like you said, if the student is not understanding what he did, doesn't care, just wants to get back on the court, it's probably going to be a higher probability that the student repeats the same offense. And then now, because we didn't want to increase the counseling sessions, now the student, maybe they go from second offense to third offense, and then it's 75% of the season that they missed. That's quite a bit. So.
To answer your question on the first one, it's a minimum. So yes,
Correct.
you could assign more.
Right. Depending on
If the response was
how
that,
it is. Yeah.
with it. Mm-hmm.
I guess my point was more like, so I understand theft, the SRO, breaking the law, the SRO, but what if somebody says, well, I would like to go to high school PE teacher, I have a good relationship. Or is she going to be given something to
do as a, because like me, if it came to me, I wouldn't know what to do for a counseling session or what we're, you know what I mean, other than when the kids.
That's when it would come for me to have the conversation with that staff member about what is going on, so they have all the background information they need to be able to talk to the student.
And determine if it is a good fit. Because if it's not,
Correct.
if it doesn't make sense because that person doesn't have the skills.
Right.
And if we really are just in a place with relationship and that is all that matters, that's one thing. But skills about these concerns are also important.
Okay.
I'm picturing Friday. Austin and I went over this. It took us 2.5 hours. So I'm like, okay, here, we'll get my feet for a while.
Well, I mean, we can just.
No, it's good conversation. I'm just like so glad that we talked about it.
All right. Any other questions on that? Okay.
And you're skipping a lot here, Austin. Is there anything from the previous coach's handbook that's come up? I guess that I just want to make sure nothing
Right.
has been omitted or ignored.
That has changed? No.
Well, I mean the other way around. That has come up in board meetings in the last year since that's the elephant in the room for me is I don't know what's been discussed or talked about.
Correct.
And so is there something that we're scrolling past that you were expecting to see as a change that we didn't talk through? That's my other worry.
All right. We're at ethics and conduct, coaching conduct. Players projections. We did not have any coach on staff ejected from any events in 25-26. Again, at the vision of Nealon Community School District coaches at the bottom, I've got the Follow the Tiger Way, and I also have that in the welcome up at the top. Award ceremonies, coaches to have award ceremonies at the end of their season to hand out certificates and letters. Letters is also in here where coaches will have their standards for how student athletes letter. And the AD Secretary Kim Wagner and I take care of that for the coaches to get them their letters. Black and Gold Booster Club. So this will talk about how I, as the AD, will serve as the liaison to the organization. So I will be in between and go to their meetings, communicate with coaches on what they need, and bring it to Black and Gold to see if Black and Gold will support financially that whatever is being requested. Bus rules and expectations, that there's a coach on the bus for every bus ride. Camp policy, teams are encouraged to run team camps over their off seasons. For example, what's that?
Do they do very many of those? We can't.
Teams will do off season, whether that's a camp necessarily. Camps are very expensive, so teams will, for example, for girls basketball, we didn't go to any camps over the summer, but we certainly competed against and scrimmaged against other schools in the area. So that would be an off-campus team camp, and where a couple of those scrimmages did cost money, so we used money from the fund to be able to go to those locations and scrimmage against other schools. So boys basketball also the same thing. They went and competed at several different locations over the summer. Again, scrimmaging against other schools.
Austin, where's the piece about? I know we talked about this, but the little kids camps.
Okay. Little kids
Sorry,
camp.
that's what I thought that meant.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. So, yes, also, I mean, we can talk about this right now. Even though it's great. Yes, so I encourage the coaches to run a youth camp once every year. For example, for the girls basketball, the first of June, right away in the summer, we do a 3-day camp for the youth. And then for track, every Wednesday of the summer, we do track club. So one of the coaches I just met with last week to go over their postseason of their season, we were talking about, because there wasn't a camp this season, so we talked about when can we make that possible? Because the school year is very jam-packed, so it is difficult to make those things happen, but it's very important for the youth to be able to have that opportunity. It's important for our coaches to be able to be in contact with the youth coaches at the same time around those activities. So we talked about what dates would be available, when should the best dates be for that, so that we can make sure that we make that happen for the younger kids in each of the sports.
And I know.
Coaching evaluation. So at the end of every season, I meet with the coaches and have a postseason. We have a preseason before their season begins and a postseason. So today is the first day of official fall practice. So cross country, volleyball, and football are starting or have started today. And so I will be meeting with those coaches very soon about the preseason, what I'm looking for in the season, and talk to the coaches about what they're expecting in the season. Coaching license. All coaches have to have a license. All applicants to positions must have a license before they can get an interview. And emergency. So this is in yellow because this is a change. When I went through this in June to make sure everything was concrete, this is an area that needed a change. So you can see it in white. This is from language previously where it says you have a copy of the consent medical treatment pre-cap. So I connected with AD Secretary Kim Wagner to make sure that we get this concrete. So this is the AD Secretary will prepare you a folder containing consent for medical treatment forms. Make sure that you, as coaches, have the sheets with you at all times when working with the student athletes. Parents will complete and turn in the form along with the current physical. So right now when parents turn in their physical, they turn in this sheet of paper, and then at the back is the med treatment. It's that form at the back that is all turned in for kids. That consent will give permission for emergency treatment, ambulance, emergency room, if coach is not able to contact parent or guardian at sporting events.
Are coaches usually made aware of any medical history that kids might have?
Yeah, the nurse at the school does a really good job communicating out to everybody, whether that's before school with school staff or with coaches. She does a really good job setting that out. Make sure that we have all of the information for any specific situation that is need to know basis for the coaches. Keys and fobs. I'll just read this quick because I know there's going to be more discussions about facilities. So in the handbook, what it states is do not give your keys or fob to anyone that is not employed by the district. If it is determined that your fob or key is given to an individual that is not employed by the district, your key fob will be deactivated for a period of time that will be determined by the activities director. Know where your keys and fob are at all times. If your keys are lost or misplaced, contact the AD immediately. Deactivate the fob. So there's no changes to that, but I'm just reading that because I know there's going to be conversation on that. Letter requirements. So each sport is different. For example, my track manual I have the requirements for student athletes to the letter. Participation in playing time. That top part right there, I'll just state that every single middle school student athlete gets playing time in every single event that they participate in. Physicals, all student athletes must have a current physical in order to participate in practice. Practice schedules, coaches already hand in their practice schedules to me. So today is the beginning of practices, so I asked for coaches' practice schedules, calendars, and rules that they will be using with their teams.
I have a question on that.
Yep.
That your underlying part there, that Sunday holidays. My question is about Wednesdays.
Mm-hmm.
I know in the past that sports that are in season haven't been able to practice on Wednesdays past 6:30.
Right.
But then coaches from an off season will be having something after 6:30 in the facility.
Correct. Sports that are in club or not associated with the school then can have those practices at the later time. Which would be aside from me and my role. Because I'm not over club or private sports.
So I'm asking clarity. You're saying you understand it that during football season, basketball coach would be having practice on Wednesdays.
Open gym. I just thought Wednesdays was like our buildings weren't having things because we were honoring the church, the kids not, you know. But I just wanted clarification. So then if people ask me, I can say no, that they can do that on. I just know the past.
With
Not supposed to be official practice, but there were things going on, pretty much.
But that sport's not in season and they're holding an open something, that whether it be we're hitting in the new gym or we're having an open gym for basketball, when the other sport that's in season has to be done at 6:30 and then kids are going to
right.
these other things.
So you're saying why
But it's off season.
is the in-season sport
Held to it and
held
it's
to
off
that
season.
and not off-season? Correct. This is not a great, but that's the way it's been practiced. Is that the way it should be? Probably not. But that's the way it has been practiced. And then I've continued that.
Shut it down.
I'm open to changes on that.
Or would you like Charge Austin and Mr. Kraft with calling some other communities, finding out what that looks like to bring back?
I mean, I don't, one way or the other doesn't really, I don't, because it was like, we didn't want kids to have to choose to be at practice at 7 o'clock at night on a Wednesday or going to their youth group. But then some other coach, you know what I mean?
Right. No, yep.
But it's off season for the
Other school districts in the area have this. So I don't know how it's practiced specifically within each and every single school district, but school districts in the area, we're all pretty much on the same 6:30 Wednesday. Family night, church night, however you want to call it.
With the new Fridays that are going to be in service days, are people going to utilize that for practice?
Coaches will practice at the same times.
So regular school after hours?
Yes.
Okay.
Good question.
Hey,
Sunday.
Yeah, just.
On that, I feel like when we say no activities on Wednesday night, then it's like no activities, whether it's an in season or out of season, because like my own kids, when they were participating, they would feel really obligated because then when their season does get in season, then they were like, oh, I'm not going to get playing time because, or I possibly couldn't because I didn't go to the open gyms or whatnot. Whether that's accurate or not, it's a perception with the kids. So if we don't have activities on Wednesday evening, I feel it should be everything.
Yeah. That's what I was believing.
So I know there's not anything specifically in the handbook about it, but is that discussions you have with coaches, like if a player misses a week of practices, are you going to not let them play kind of thing? Or is
are you saying a week of open gyms before the season? Is that
let's say like in the season, they go on vacation or comp when we
Right.
practices.
So because that's going to happen, right? Families are going to have vacation in season. And as a coach, I've had that too. So would we love to have every single family in the district go on vacation family week in the summer and then no kids miss? Yes, absolutely. But that's not going to happen. Families have different dynamics when they can vacation and they're connecting with other people going on vacation at different times. It's fine. Families are going to go on their vacation. I've had it happen. I had a student athlete in track go on vacation for a week. That's fine. Families are going to do what they need to do. So when that student athlete comes back, are they being punished necessarily when they come back because they're gone? No, but they did miss time. So they did give an opportunity for other student athletes who were there every single day to work themselves into a lineup, get more playing time, whatever it is. So a student athlete that's gone for a week, they're going to miss some playing time. It wouldn't be okay if that student athlete was gone for missed 5 days, say it was 2 games, 3 practices, whatever it may be, comes back and gets, say they were a starter or had meaningful minutes or plenty of playing time, whatever it may be. It wouldn't be okay for that student athlete to go right back into the starting lineup after, say, this student athlete was there all week and took the opportunity to get better, got more playing time, and worked himself or herself on the field or the court. So is there going to be a reduced playing time for however much time? Yes, there will be because they missed time. But are student athletes punished or in the doghouse or sitting on the bench for 2 weeks because they missed a week of practice because their family went on vacation? No, that's not the case.
Is
So
that specific for coach? Like if you miss a practice, you you don't start, or you miss something.
Correct. It would be according to the coach's rules, and every sport is different.
Right.
And wrestling and track, there's more individuals, and that's a little bit different also as far as how a coach is going to handle that. So that would fall back on the coach's rules, and also depending on the number of kids that they have on the team, there's several different factors that get involved there.
Well, I definitely want the coach to be able to handle playing time because that's the coach's job. I would hope it would be a discussion that's had with the kids so they can understand that. Like, hey, I'm not playing. Is it because I missed practice last week, or is it just because I'm not playing good, kind of thing? Like, just be open and honest about it, and that way people don't have to wonder about it right when they're in the situation.
And with the
Sam,
Yes. Becky?
hey, I just wondered, what's the policy on coaches, kids being at practice, their own kids, relatives, friends, and what's the, are they allowed to ride in the school vehicles to games? And if we have a policy, what's the consequence if it happens?
friends of friends, relatives, and coaches'
kids.
kids do not ride the bus, go to games. No.
Did you hear that, Becky?
I did hear that. What about open gyms and practices where,
There's going to be times where a coach has kids and they will be at the practice or at the open gym. There's going to be times where that happens, and that's okay. I'm not going to penalize the coach because they had to have their kids at the practice. If their kids are at practice every single day and causing problems and not in a space that the parent can reach, that the kids know where they're supposed to be, and then they're not getting into any trouble with the team, then it's not an issue. And I've talked to all the schools in the conference, and no, the schools do not have a policy saying you cannot have any kids in practice. Because if I had kids, I can tell you I would want, once in a while, I'm going to bring the kids to practice. You're going to sit on the side and you're going to watch, but for sure, once in a while, they can be there, and that's okay. That's a great.
well, you said the key words. You just said the key words. They're going to sit and they're going to watch, because in the past that has not happened. And we've dealt with this every year that I've been on the board. And I'm just thinking we should probably have some kind of a rule, because it has been an issue, and there have been younger kids at open gyms playing when they shouldn't have been.
And today,
It's caused a lot of problems with other kids that don't get to come to the open gym.
and I've been in the open gyms and at practices, and today I walked in the gym twice, and there was one kid of a coach who was sitting outside the gym, not causing any problems or in the way of practice today. So I go in and I check on practices and see if there's anything that needs to be addressed in that arena.
Becky, I think this is something that Austin and I can explore together as well. And I think there's this balance of, we really want coaches to coach. We really want people to want to be here. We really want people to be in New London, but we do have families. And so I think if there's further questions about this, then we can talk through that and see where the concerns are.
Then we go down to the Sunday use of school facilities. Approval must be received for teams to have scheduled practices on this day, and no activity can be mandatory. Communication must be sent to the parents and student athletes, and no activities before 12 p.m. on a Sunday. Preseason meeting. So this is highlighted on yellow because it was a little bit muddy, so I changed them just to clarify the language written here. Coaches will arrange a preseason meeting with prospective team members before the start of the season. For the season, coaches will have a team meeting to simply give kids the start practice date, schedule, and then coaches will also meet with parents of student athletes before the first competition. So then we're in that first or second week generally of practice where coaches will meet with parents. Before practice, coaches will meet with student athletes. Before competition, coaches will meet with parents. Team rules and expectations are expected to give to the AD. Team attendance, coaches are expected to take attendance. Yes, it may seem simple, but for a coach must be able to look at and go, oh, this student athlete has been to all 15 practices. We must acknowledge that and celebrate that. This student athlete has missed 3 practices. What is going on here? Let's figure out how to change that, and then that also must work into the playing time, or how the consequences are worked for that coach. Rosters. I worked final here. Previously it said rosters. I added final roster because the final roster before competitions may be different from the first. So the final roster must be turned into the activities director by the end of the second week of practice before the first competition. And I added in here because Bound is not necessarily new, but Bound is where everything is going right now. Bound is where you find everything from schedules to stats, and coaches enter everything into Bound. So I put in here rosters must be added into Bound after the first practice, because every coach adds in their roster and their stats into Bound. So that had to be added in there. For example, today I talked to the fall sports coaches about making sure they had their roster added into Bound, even though if it's not perfect, then there might be some minor changes after the first week of practice for them to be able to add that into Bound. Okay, then we go into attendance. School, the kids have to be to school by 5th hour in order to be able to participate in activities. School discipline, when students have detentions, they must complete those detentions. They must complete outstanding detentions before they can participate in competition. Scrolling down to severe weather, I added that bottom line there where it says outdoor sports must refer to the WBGT, wet, cold, globe, thermometer, reading for outdoor practice guidelines, because the state highly recommended that we use this guideline in 25-26. So we have this thermometer that I just took outside before football practice, and it gives you a reading. So it's based on several different factors, and so I put it up on the screen right there. So for example, football practice, it says, here's orange. If the number is here, this is what is allotted practice. Here's red, here's black. So for example, before football practice today, it was right between 84 and 88. So I took this out to the coach and showed him this is where this is what the reading is, and here's where you have to live today for your outdoor sport. So for outdoor sports, have to refer to that. And then it gets to a certain point where no activity. And then it also lays out guidelines as far as games, okay? Referees need to have a 3-minute break. There needs to be a 3-minute break here at this point, and there needs to be a water break. Those are all mandated, and so I added that into the severe weather portion. Let me go into apparel sales. And then, okay, this edition right here where it says sports youth communication. So we've never had a clear and consistent communication platform across all of our activities. So 2 years ago, I started using Sports U, which is an app which communicates to student athletes and parents. So I started using this 2 years ago because there was a need for this, so that us as coaches, we are not putting together a texting group chat to teenagers and then another one to parents, or it just gets a little bit confusing, a little bit muddy, and we shouldn't be texting with our students. So I wanted to have a platform that all of our sports use. It's clear parents are used to, starting in middle school and going through high school. So I started using this 2 years ago. So what can happen with this is all parents, all student athletes are in it. Coaches can put out messages, reminders to the kids. They all see it. Parents see it. And coaches are able to put in their calendars into the schedule, and it gives automatically gives you, as the owner of the app, gives you an update or a reminder saying, okay, there's a competition. You're playing at Danville on this day. You've got a home game against Reminder. You've got a home game against West Burlington on this day. So coaches are able to put their whole calendar in there and communicate. Also, coaches are able to send direct messages like a text to whether that's a parent or a student athlete, so that they're not texting each other. Student athletes, parents can both send direct messages, or parents can put a message or a reminder on the app for a whole team to see. And so what happens is the coach or the admin of that page can look at that and approve it. For example, if a parent was posting something that didn't need to be seen by everybody, then a coach can discard that from being seen by everybody. Comments can be made and deleted on the app as well. And then also, so what happens is we have all but as of right now, before this is even in the handbook, we have all but 3 programs using the app already right now. So what I do also is I have access to all the communication that their coaches set. So I'm a coach on the app within their program. So anytime that somebody gives a reminder, I see what the coaches are saying. If there's a group chat from a parent asking a question, I see that chat and I see the coaches respond to it. I see everything that's posted, so it helps me be able to communicate to the coaches what needs to be done, or if something is amiss, then I can communicate that to the coaches. And if I need to send the coaches to say, hey, would you please put a reminder on Sports U because you've got Meet the Players coming up, please put that on. Or you've got senior night coming up, please remind your parents of that, and then they put that on the app. And then it's real easy because it goes from, for example, junior high volleyball, they'll be on their app, and then the head coach for volleyball will be a part of the junior high volleyball communication. So the head coach will be able to help out and look and see the junior high communication, and then the head coach will be able to post in the junior high page and say, here is the access code to join the high school page when those 8th graders are moving from 8th grade to high school. So there's no communication gap going from summer of their 8th grade year to their freshman year. And then my next goal is just to simply encourage the youth coaches to use this app with their programs as well, so that families get used to using it before they even reach junior high. Right. So Game Changer is used as well, but there's advantages to Sports U with adding in the calendar, and it can be synced to Bound as well. And then messages are easier deleted or moved around. volunteer. Then we go into volunteer coaches. Volunteer coaches are encouraged. Volunteer coaches must have a coaching license, and volunteer coaches coach at the request of the head coach and have just about all, if not the same, requirements to be there at practice, at events as hired coaches. Equipment and inventory. This was definitely a need for me coming. I'm going into year 3. This is a need going into year 1 for me to make sure that I've got the inventories from coaches. So I've been encouraging coaches to fill out an inventory and send that in, and I show coaches examples of my inventory so they can see what that should look like when they turn their equipment. Purchasing new equipment, I simply highlighted in yellow as requisition because before the wording it said purchase order, and that's not correct. We use a requisition for coaches to fill out, whether that's online or on paper, when there's a need for equipment in their program. All right, then we have concussions, the concussion protocol. And then now we can get to the big ticket item.
So before you get into this,
Sure.
take a minute, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm going to circle back around to and I don't know if we need to have another conversation on it. Becky brought up the coaches' kids at practice. I don't know if this is the time where we need to circle back. Okay. I would have to disagree with you guys saying that, we're a small community or other places in the district have coaches' kids at practice. I mean, it's their job. That's their job is coaching at that time. And to their other jobs, they can't bring kids to work. So I also worry about the danger of the kids because I've seen some things that are pretty dangerous that I have witnessed a coach with a child doing. And so then I have questions about the liability of accidents happening during that time. And I know you say, oh, just sit there and watch, but how many times would they run up? And it's taking away from the coach's focus on the kids that they should be paying attention to.
So if we created a rule for coaches' kids, what do you think that would look like or should look like?
Don't bring your kids to practice.
0.
Absolutely.
So the way you see it now is more of like a supervisory kind of thing where you're going to check in on it and say if it's becoming a problem or not.
Yes, then that's where I step in. If there's no issue for the kids, then no need for me to step in. But if there's an issue and it's taking away from our students that are there at practice that need the time for those coaches, then yes, that situation needs to be addressed.
Have you had it come up at all? Any of your coaches?
What was the answer to that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Kyle, go ahead.
Like you're saying now, community and stuff. I worry we will lose coaches if we do. I agree with Austin here with how, if it's a problem, he's going to supervise it, and then if it is a problem, then he'll make the deciding factor. Because, if you have something come up, no one to watch your kids, that might come up. I don't know. Oh, we can just say no kids can be there at all. There's just those random times that something happens and you have to bring your kids and, if they are causing a problem, then it has to be addressed. I totally agree with that, but I just can't see us putting something in there that says no kids.
Well, I think there's an assistant coach, and if I got called at work, my kid was sick, or my husband couldn't pick my kid up from daycare, I'd have to leave work and go do it. Not like you bring them to me and they can stay at my work until I'm done.
And Austin can't be at every practice and every open gym for every sport. Like I said, I think a lot of people have seen this with their own eyes. I know I talked to Mr. Walls in depth about this. I know he's not in the picture anymore, but we can't have babies and little kids at practices. It's not fair to the kids that are being coached. We're paying those coaches to coach that level of kid, not babysit their kids. And I mean, I understand what Kyle's saying too, but you know, when I was a teacher, I couldn't take my kids to school with me. And, you know, we supposedly put it into kids being at the early outs for PDs because, you know, that's not the place for them. I just think we need to look more into this.
And I mean, I guess I would agree with the, you know, the baby thing, but I just worry like this being, we already struggle with coaches. I mean, the openings we have right now, I mean, this will ruffle feathers. I mean, we'll lose coaches for this because, and like I said, I don't think the kids do it every time, all the time. I mean, I just think this is where you almost have to have it, you know, this where it could be a possibility. I just, it'd be really hard just to say no. I don't know. That's just my opinion.
And if I can opinion as well, this is Jessica. I agree with Jen and Becky because right now I think that I don't think it's occasional. I think it's like, oh, it doesn't matter. I've got a coach this afternoon and come on kids, get in the car. Or if they're going to a camp or if they're going to a game, then, you know, it's just an unspoken permission that the kids can go. And then that takes away from our student athletes. I agree with Jen that I worry about the liability. I worry about the time taken away from the job that they're supposed to be doing. I would personally like to see it stopped.
Right now, it's already a rule they can't travel with the coaches, right?
Correct. Yes. No, yeah. No
So
travel.
that shouldn't be happening no matter what.
No.
And I don't know if that.
Yeah. And I don't know the level of kids coming to practice either. I guess I don't have any kids in older sports, so I'm not too aware of what's going on there. I guess I would be okay with leaving it on supervisory side. You can make the call on whether it's becoming a problem or not. I can see situations where, I mean, when I'm coaching my kid's third grade team, I brought my daughter before with me, and no, I mean it's volunteer, of course, but I don't know. I would be okay with it as long as we have, but maybe not in the handbook, but a clear set of guidelines for the coaches. They're not going to be a problem. They're not going to be out there. And if that's just a conversation with you having it and
Right.
supervising,
Right.
I'd be okay with that. Then, because it would be hard to, unless you just say no or yes,
Right.
like there was not a lot of in between you can do with the rule. So
Right.
I don't think I'm okay with just saying no at all.
I'd hate to make a rule that says no, and then now we lose a good coach or good coaches because they can't guarantee that there's not going to be one or two or three of their 50 practices that they are going to have to bring their kid to, and maybe they didn't see that, maybe they did see it coming, maybe they did see it coming. I would hate to lose that, or I would hate the opportunity for a head coach who has young kids to 2 times in the season bring their kids so they can watch and see a practice or see those girls or those boys that they really look up to. I would hate to lose that. Do I want there to be distractions in practice? Absolutely not, 100%. When I lay out practice, I lay out everything, and I want things to get done, just as other coaches, all coaches do. They've got an agenda, and trust me, they want to get done what they want to get done in practice. Like that is like I have to be aware of when practice times is. I can't be talking to coach 5 minutes before practice because they're one track mind, just like me. I go 5 minutes to practice, I'm solely thinking on that one thing. So I would hate to discourage coaches from coaching but yes, absolutely. I don't want to take away from our kids' practice. I don't want there to be any distractions. I don't want any young kids to be little kids to be in the way of in danger of being hurt. No, don't want those things to happen. Absolutely not. But
those are happening, Austin.
I was gonna say, then why has that been allowed to happen?
I mean, I don't,
Is there a specific situation where something has happened at a practice?
I've witnessed a
Yes.
couple things. I witnessed it. So it's an outside practice if I can witness it. And I have seen a couple dangerous things and I'm like, oh my gosh.
okay, so that's something, because I'm not at every single practice. I'm at a lot. I am at a lot, much practice at games. So that's something that I need to know. That needs to be brought to me so that I can address it, because I don't want those things to happen. I don't want little kids there, and I don't want anybody to be hurt. I don't want time taken away from the kids. So am I okay with kids being there once in a while? Yes. But if there is an issue, then I 100% need to know about it. Because if there's, like you said, there's this issue, I did not know. And if I don't know about it, I can't do anything about it.
I don't know if the kids will tell about it or who. I just think it's, I don't know, it's just too, it's like, but you can't have a yes and you can't have a no. Like, either we can let everybody have their kids at practice or we can't, because you have an assistant coach. If you're the head coach and there's 2 times in the year you have your kids, don't go to practice that day and the assistant coach runs practice. I don't know.
Or if you're an assistant coach and you have 3 kids, they don't go to practice. The kids. This was brought up 2 years ago, Austin. I brought this up at a meeting and nothing was done about it.
That's not true.
That is true. You were there going over the coach's handbook, and I'm not here to argue with you. It's just,
no, it was addressed.
I agree
Kids had
with
to be picked up and taken home when it was addressed 2 years ago.
And I don't personally think we would lose coaches if somebody wants to coach. And I just think if you say you can do it, it'll be done. And if somebody says, I can't coach because I don't have babysitting, well, then your focus should be at home with your kids.
So I'm hearing that the board, we need to pause on, at least up to this point, on the handbook and maybe think about some information that needs to go into the handbook about your priority as a coach and children in practice, because I know we still have to go into the 8th grade piece. So I think we can work together to talk through that, what that could look like, and have something ready for the prior portion of the handbook for Monday. Okay. Monday is going to be a big meeting.
Happens sometimes.
Yeah.
Good.
I have one more thing for you.
Okay.
Because I wrote a sticky note today. Where it said dress code, that coaches should dress professionally. Which I think is pretty big, because I've seen coaches in jeans and a t-shirt that's not even a school t-shirt that maybe has a different advertisement on it, or it's, and so if they're not in, like dress casual, I guess that's a term that most people know, is then they have something school sponsored on.
Is what you would like to see.
I would like to see,
like
yeah,
practice
it was
or
a competition, see somebody in jeans and a t-shirt,
Right. That's where different sports are different. Where like a basketball coach is going to wear nice clothes to their competition, whereas a wrestling coach, I watched many coaches are going to wear hats or wear jeans at wrestling. They're all day. They're going to be dressed in that little bit more comfortable wear. But so you're saying you would like to see with the professional dress, not like plain clothing, like if there's a t-shirt, it should have to be a New London Tiger.
Well, I don't know. I just think you don't know if that's the coach or Joe Schmo coming in.
So you're talking specifically about competition.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And this is an interesting topic because this has changed a bit because coaches are dressing more and more casual now. So it's like I was coaching in a game and the opposing coach is wearing a hoodie. I thought that was very interesting. It's different. So it's different where not every single coach is going to wear a tie, suit and jacket. every day anymore. So
Professional then, being in a buddy, professional. Then it's just a
depends on the
very
event.
great choice.
If you're a wrestling coach and you're all
I have to disagree. I have 2 wrestling coaches that
December and you're going
are
on the bus to
wear nice pants. And that's
then I think that's okay. Does
Can I add something to this piece real quick?
Sure.
It's a violation of the coach's ethics if they get their season apparel, a fundraiser. Every sport does it every single season, and it's something that I hope has stopped. But I did run across it a few times in my tenure there. That if they gave the vendor the season apparel, the vendor would then throw in coaching polos for the whole staff. And that's an ethics violation. So we certainly don't want that going on. And I would like to see, if the coaches are going to wear polo, that's fine. I didn't mean I would like to see, but if we wanted to supply polos to the coaches, I'm not saying we do, I'm not saying we don't, but we could do it one of 2 ways. They could purchase it and then it's their own, or the school could purchase it and then after the season, they turn it back in, it's district property. So I just want to make sure that all of the coaches are aware that they cannot accept any gifts over $3 or they're in violation of the coaching ethics, which would get their license taken away.
Thank you for bringing that up, Jessica.
Yeah, you bet.
okay? Are we ready to move on?
Do you get those tips?
Okay, 8th grade students, athletes in high school sports. So 8th grade student athletes are now able to participate in high school sports, according to the House File 2591. So anybody can look at this and you can find guidelines on the state site and look at that link here, which is on the coach's handbook. So this is in effect now as of August 1st. So the state had a meeting with all ADs earlier this summer, and us as a conference, the super conference, had a meeting all together after that state had a meeting and gave us the rules to this House file. So a few simple logistics to the law. The first competition of an 8th grade student athlete season declares the level of eligibility, whether that's junior high or high school. Meaning this season, if there is a volleyball student athlete, if that student athlete participates in a junior high competition first, that student athlete is declaring their eligibility for that sport at that level. If there is a student athlete who's going a dual, which is down there, 2 more levels down, if there's a dual sport athlete, say a volleyball player who's also competing in cross country, the first cross country event, if that student athlete competes, if it's an 8th grader, that student athlete competes at the high school level for cross country, that student athlete must compete at the high school level in cross country for the remainder of the season and must compete, I said junior high for volleyball, so they must compete at that level for the entire season. There's no going back and forth. Previously in softball and baseball, 8th graders have been able to move up and they are able to go back and forth, but that is no longer even for softball and baseball. They're not grandfathered into the rule. So 8th grade students, athletes may only play at one level during the specific sports season. Now I said if there's an 8th grade student athlete who participates in high school cross country, that does not mean that he or she must compete at the high school level in every single sport. It's only for that specific sport. Local control, the state emphasizes this often. It's local control. While the state allows 8th grade student athletes to participate in the high school sports, the decision at which level 8th grade student athletes participate remains local school district control. So that is up up to us as a school district how we handle that. And then I put in here SEIC, the super conference itself. We all met together and discussed that there is no conference oversight from the conference. No conference oversight will be made on individual school decisions. So the conference isn't saying all 8th graders move up. There's just no oversight. Also, junior high level scheduling remains the same, meaning we're not making high school athletics include 8th grade and leaving 7th grade as the only junior high programs. We are still having 7th grade volleyball, 8th grade volleyball, fresh soft, JV, varsity volleyball. All the levels will remain the same. Why is that so for our conference especially? Because there are 1A schools and there are 3A schools. There's a ton of in between. For us small schools, if we would say all 8th graders move up, well, that might leave us 4 7th grade girls in volleyball, 4 7th grade girls in basketball, and then we cannot field a team. So all the scheduling is completely the same. Like I said, with J high volleyball, J high basketball, 7th grade game, 8th grade game, all levels are staying the same. Okay, any questions on that part before I go into the district and our policy and how we're going to do that? Okay.
Austin,
Yes.
what's the difference between JV and fresh soft?
Okay, in volleyball, there's fresh soft is the first level of play. Each night there's fresh soft volleyball, there's JV volleyball, and then there's the varsity competition. So fresh soft would include freshmen and sophomores. JV would include freshmen, sophomores, juniors, and then varsity will include any level, including seniors. Now, that's the only sport that has those levels. Then we go to girls basketball, for example. There is 7th grade, 8th grade, JV, varsity. In volleyball, there's 7th grade, 8th grade, fresh soft, JV, and varsity. So there's more levels there.
You said JV is fresh, soft, and juniors?
Correct.
Okay, thanks.
Can seniors not play?
Seniors can.
Oh, they could. Okay, I didn't know. You didn't say that.
Yep. Okay. Any other questions on that? All right. Us as a district, and I will explain it. I'm sure you'll have questions. The district believes that junior high students benefit most from developmentally appropriate experiences. Participation in high school programs by 8th grade students may be considered when it clearly serves the student's best interests while maintaining the integrity of both the junior high and high school programs. So what would an example of maintaining the integrity of the junior high programs be? Making sure we still have all the levels of junior high and we're not losing a level because of moving a student up. Because then if we move a student up and we lose a 7th grade, lose an 8th grade level, we are not giving the other school we're competing against as much time to compete. We're not allowing them to be able to get a competition, and we are removing playing time from our student athletes as well. The district recognizes that in certain circumstances, participation by an 8th grade student in high school activity may be appropriate. However, the participation at the high school level is considered an exception rather than an expectation and will be determined on a case-by-case basis. So when schools in the state are putting together their levels and how they are going to handle this, high majority, whatever, everything I see is schools are looking at a case-by-case basis. And how our policy is written right here is not very far off from all the schools, from the letters that I looked at, from the conference as a whole, how we are going to handle it, or how other schools in the conference are going to handle it, and from what we talked about on day one. Going to the next paragraph, before an individual student, 8th grade student, is considered, the varsity head coach must first determine that there is a program need exists. So that there's a program need at the high school level. The purpose of this process is not to identify 8th grade students who simply want to participate at the high school level, but to determine whether the high school program has a need that may appropriately be met by an 8th grade student. A need would be if there is a possibility for a JV program, but that can't be met without another 8th grade student. In determining whether a program need exists, the varsity head coach will consider, does the high school program need an additional participant to appropriately field or support the team? What specific role or level participation is needed? So most likely, if an 8th grade student moves up to play at the high school level, it is probably going to be at the JV level. That is still 2 years ahead of them because they'd be playing against freshmen, sophomores, in some cases playing against juniors at the JV level. So what specific role or level of participation is needed? So the head coach must address what is needed in their program. Will moving an 8th grade student negatively impact the junior high program or participation opportunities for other students? So what does that mean? That means, how would it negatively affect the junior high? That would mean if we moved up a couple kids from the junior high softball program up to high school, and now we can only play one level of junior high softball. That would hurt the softball team because now they play one game instead of two. How would it, participation opportunities for other students, how would it negatively affect that for high school students? If there is not a need, if the high school program can fully fill a JV and varsity levels, then there's not necessarily that need for that student because there are plenty of kids to be able to play at those levels. There are other factors as well, and I'll keep talking. Will the student have an opportunity for meaningful participation at the high school level? So it would not be good for us to move up a student from 8th grade to play at the high school level for them to sit on the bench. That would not be okay. That student needs time on the court, on the field to play. And I just talked to a coach last week about their experience when they were in high school and it was a decision that had to be made, but the student athlete had to move up from 8th grade to play JV and then sat quite a bit of time on the bench and didn't get enough playing time, and that really hurt that individual's career and enjoyment in the sport. Going to the last paragraph. So we're centered around program head coach identifying a program need. So we're centered around program need right now at this point. If a program need is identified, the varsity head coach will communicate with the activities director and may identify an 8th grade student who could potentially meet that need of the high school program. The coach and or activities director will communicate with the family of that student regarding the identified need and determine whether the family is even interested in having the student considered. The family must be interested in having their son or daughter move up in order to continue with the process. This communication does not constitute an offer or guarantee of high school participation for that student athlete. Okay. So now we move on from program need. If a program need is not identified, but another compelling reason, because there may be another reason, is identified, and if the varsity head coach believes an 8th grade student athlete should be considered, a formal letter of recommendation will be submitted to the activities director, high school principal, and district superintendent. So that formal letter must be submitted from the varsity head coach. The next steps after the formal letter, the activities director will then review the identified program need, compelling reason, and readiness of the student. The following factors will be considered when making a placement recommendation. So now we look more at the individual student because, as it is stated, the identified and program need, compelling reason, and also readiness of the student. So for the individual student, academic standing, attendance, and behavior, the student's skill level and ability to safely participate at the high school level, student's physical, emotional, and social maturity, whether the student will have an opportunity for meaningful participation, which I stated up above, the educational and developmental benefit to the student, the impact on both junior high and high school programs, including roster size, participation opportunities, and long-term program development, and very importantly, parent guardian support. Moving on to the next step. After reviewing these factors, program need and individual, after reviewing these factors and the recommendation of the varsity head coach, the activities director will then bring a recommendation to the high school principal and district superintendent for discussion and review. The activities director recommendation to the superintendent and high school principal will serve as the starting point for the decision-making process and will not constitute as final approval. We're almost at the end. Before a final decision is made, the activities director, high school principal, and district superintendent will meet with the varsity head coach to discuss the recommendation expectations and any considerations related to the student's participation. The student and parent guardian will also be included in the communication of the process prior to the final approval to ensure that there is shared understanding between family, student, admin team. Final decision will be determined by the activities director, high school principal, and district superintendent following this review and discussion. Approval may be granted, denied, or granted with specific conditions. Approval for participation in one activity or season does not automatically establish eligibility or approval for future activities. So if it is granted for cross country, that doesn't mean that student is automatically the next season of basketball is granted or at high school level. The district's primary consideration, this is the final here, the district's primary consideration will be the best interest, safety, and development of the student themselves while maintaining the integrity of both the junior high and high school programs. Okay. In short, if I were to say, because there was plenty of words there, but in short, if I were to say how to break down the process, head coach determines need exists. If there's factors identified, okay. Then head coach communicates to AD, and by this point, I would have already had fluent conversations with the head coach about it, probably months before the season even started, and continue on. Then head coach and AD communicate with identified 8th grade student family regarding if there is interest and program need or compelling reason. Head coach writes a formal letter of recommendation to the admin team, high school principal, superintendent, and activity director. And then at that point, the activity director brings recommendation to the admin team. After factor review by the admin team, program need, compelling reason, or student readiness is discussed, and then the admin team and head coach have discussion review. Then the final decision is made. So that's all that. Is this very similar to what all schools are going to do?
So let's
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
hypothetically,
Right.
you've got an 8th grade girl playing basketball. The 8th grade team has plenty of players. The JV team has plenty of players. She's good enough to start on JV. Everybody's on board with it. That's something you'd be comfortable approving.
Maintaining integrity of the high school programs, right? So if that student moves up, then the junior high programs, they're losing probably that player that they have played alongside and are used to playing alongside. Plus, then we go into the high school. If there's a sophomore at that same level of that student, and that sophomore is going to potentially lose playing time to this 8th grade student, then that wouldn't be maintaining the integrity of the high school program.
So you see this more as filling in gaps in a roster than just trying to put kids who might be in a better position.
I see this as total case by case because there are so many scenarios. If there are plenty of kids in 8th grade and we're able to maintain their integrity by filling 7th grade, 8th grade rosters, while those 7th and 8th graders are still being able to play a competitive game and play without having that player. Because if we're talking about 8th grade students, we're probably talking about a player that those kids are used to playing with and is doing quite a bit on the court, on the field, right? So there may be a situation where that class really going to reduce their competitive ability without having that 8th grade student play with them. Now there's something to be said for an 8th grade student moving up and giving more time for those students to develop. There are certain cases for that also. So there's many different factors here. What was the second part of your question?
No, I think
Okay.
I guess I would I'm with you. I would hate to see like a JV player lose out on a chance to play.
Correct.
I mean, I get it that if someone's good enough to do it, they could, but I still see JV as more of a developmentally kind of position for a player to be in than say varsity or something like that. But
Yes. The development of junior high and JV is very, very, very important. And for us as a school to be able to provide the sports to as many kids as we possibly can is extremely important. For us to be able to provide the sports for them to play in, and for us to encourage kids to be able to be a part of as many activities as they want to be in. And I don't want to take away that from any student. Yep.
But this is going to be a mess for lots of people in the state. I have a feeling, and I'm glad I'm not in your job to have to determine who gets moved up and not. Because so let's say we have a parent, the varsity coach wants an 8th grade person. Parent thinks, yes, they can go up. And there's enough to play junior high. There's already enough to play high school. You say, well, that person should play with their team that they have been playing with. The team will be more successful, but yet it's holding that student athlete back.
Correct.
Yeah. So it's just.
That's another scenario.
Yeah.
I can think of a scenario that we had years ago where there was a student athlete in 8th grade, and this student athlete could certainly have gone up and played JV, and his teammates at the junior high level would have been fine. It would have been good for them to play on their own without that student athlete. So there's both sides of it. There's, yes, you need to move up for you because it's holding you back to play here, and it's holding your teammates back because they're so dependent on you. But then there's also the side of, can the supporting student athletes, can they still play a game the way it should be played without being completely discouraged without that player? And like you said, I don't want to hold any student athletes back. So if it is absolutely apparent that student athlete move up and help out this level while maintaining integrity on both sides, is this going to be perfect? It's going to be difficult.
Yeah, because you'll have parents that'll disagree with you.
Correct.
Yeah. And so then they'll be like, well, right. We'll
do
go
you
somewhere
feel like
else.
this is something we're going to see a lot of?
When something that the state told us when they brought it to us, obviously we're all like, this is a massive, huge deal. This is a complete change. We're having to spend a lot of time on this. One thing